I'm not sure where to start, but I'll just start and see what ground we've covered today. I've seen some videos from you in Australia, India, Switzerland, and what always strikes me is that you're able, like in an hour's time, to give a sketch of the human condition. But to me, it's always a very rough sketch, and maybe today we could go into some part of this a bit more deeper.
Right.
I told you I'm a clinical psychologist, therapist, and sexologist, and in that capacity, I talk with a lot of people about things that are very vital to them, and to me as well, relationships, sexuality, and everything that is concerned with that. What struck me in one of the videos I saw of you, and maybe we can start from there, was that you said, which was shocking in a way, but very clear in another way, that we people sort of exploit each other. Like there's an exchange of, if you give me something, I'll give you something. And in a way, I think that's very basic, so maybe we could go into that today.
That's a fact, but we do not want to accept that as a fact, because it destroys the very myth that there is something marvelous, extraordinary in the human relationships. We are not honest, decorous, and decent enough to admit that all relationships are built on the foundation of what do I get out of this relationship. It is mutual gratification. If that is absent there, to keep that relationships for whatever reasons, for social reasons or for other reasons, children, property, security, and all this, are part and parcel of the whole the relationship business that we are all trying to maintain. And when that fails, when that doesn't give us what we really want out of this relationship, we superimpose on that what we call love. So it is just not possible to have any relationship on any basis except on this. But the whole culture, for its own reasons, has created this situation for us. It has created the value system. But the most important thing is the security, you see, and then the possessiveness. I want to possess the other individual. When my hold is becoming weaker for various other reasons, it wears out after a while. You see, you cannot maintain this lovey-dovey relationship that the relationship started between man and woman all the time, because it is based on two fundamental images that we create for ourselves. So the actual relationship between two individuals is the relationship between the two images. But your image is changing, and the image of the other person involved in your relationship also is changing constantly. But the demand to keep it the same basis, the same image level, is just not possible. So when everything else fails, we use this final, the last card in the pack, with the marvelous romantic ideations around that thing called love. To me, love implies two. Wherever there is a division there, whether it is within you or without you, that relationship cannot last long. The relationships are formed and then the relationships are dissolved, and both of those things happen in the same frame. So that is really the problem. To me, you see, you may think that I'm a very crude man, but if anybody talks to me about love, it is to me a four-letter word. That's the only basic relationship between a man and a woman. I go to the extent of saying that it is a social problem for us. You see, what kind of a relationship you should have. In those days, even amongst the Brahmins, it is not possible to marry unless you belong to the same subdivision there. And it was worse than racial stuff in those countries, even in those highly advanced civilizations. So the idea of maintaining the, I don't know what word we'll use, you see, they call it, I just don't get the right word, you see, to maintain the family traditions. What is tradition after all? It is the unwillingness to change with the changing things. When we are forced by the conditions, then we change a little, but yet, you see, the change is not in the interest of the mechanism of our thinking. I'm saying a lot of things. And I go to the extent of saying, unfortunately, we have blown this business of sex out of proportion. It is just a simple biological need of this living organism. This body is interested in only two things: survival and to reproduce one like this. It's not interested in anything. But it has become a tremendous problem because the basic biological functioning of the body has we have turned that, you see, into a pleasure moment. See, there is no thought, there is no sex at all. And the second problem here is it is not just the sex act that is important, you see. The build-up that is there, the romantic structure that we have built around it, the love play, this, that and the other, is based on the build-up, you know. So, if you look at, say, a beautiful woman, for example, the moment I say that it is a woman, we have created a problem here. A beautiful woman. And then it is more pleasurable to hold her hand than just to look at the beautiful woman. It's more pleasurable to embrace her. It's more pleasurable to kiss her, so on and on and on. And this is the build-up that is really the problem. Here, the build-up is totally absent. Because there is no way, you see, this can be focused on any particular object. The moment you say that, you see, she's a beautiful woman, that is the cultural thing. Something happens there, that beautiful woman opens her mouth, and for all you know, she has the ugliest teeth that any woman can have, let alone the beautiful woman. So you see, that has moved from there to here. And then something else, you see, her movements. So this is constantly changing. There is no way you can maintain this build-up. So what is there is only the physical attraction that you can never be free from. Never be free from. All those people, the saints, they are tortured with this to control that, you see. It is the natural attraction. But that natural attraction is something which you should not be condemned, you see. So you don't tell yourself that you are a God man, that you are a realized man, that you are an enlightened man, that you are a saint, and that you should not think these thoughts. See, that's really the problem there. They are not honest enough to admit that. So if a saint comes to me, or one who practices celibacy, I am very ruthless with them. You see, do you really mean to say that you never have wet dreams? I ask him. And the second thing is to practice celibacy in the name of your spiritual pursuit is a crime against nature. If you are impotent or for some reason, if the woman happens to be a barren woman, that's a different story. But why you see this religious thinking of man emphasize this denial of sex as a means to spiritual attainments? You see, because that's the way you can control people. That's the most powerful drive.
By making sex dirty,
dirty.
You want to be pure, and if you want to be pure, you
yes,
have to...
Sex is a very natural thing. You see, if you don't have sex, it probably goes through your urine, or it goes. The sex glands have to function. If they don't function normally, you are an abnormal individual. But we are not ready to accept the fact because it undermines, this is a parenthetical clause, I'm using a very complex sentences. It undermines the very foundation of human culture, that we are not just biological beings, that we are something more than that, you see. Whether it is spiritual thinking or an economic thinking, you know, you say you are just not an economic being controlled by the laws of supply and demand, but actually in the field of economics we are controlled by the supply and demand. And in the political field, the raw excessive politicalism controls our thinking. So, but we are not ready to accept the basic fundamental fact that this is just a biological being. And all that is happening there is the hormonal activity. And it is pure and simple chemistry. That is all that is there. So if there is any problem there, you see, it is too much for me to tell you because you are a sex therapist and all that kind of a thing. It cannot be helped in any other way other than trying to change the chemistry of the whole thing. See, I think our whole thinking has to be put on a different track. You see, I don't know. See, I'm just suggesting. I may be wrong. I'm not competent enough. You see.
What track would that be?
It's all chemical. It's all chemical. You see, if as they say that the desires are hormones, and the whole ethical culture that we have created through centuries to control the behavior of human being is false. So desire cannot be false. Anything that is happening within this organism cannot be false.
Let me see if I get you straight.
I don't know if I have made myself clear.
I think so. I'm just checking. Are you saying that there will always be sexual desire even without thought? Because
without thought there is no sex at all.
There's no sex at all.
At all.
So where there's sexual...
Without thought there is nothing there. So thought is memory. Thought is, I don't know where, you see, this people made fun of me when I said, you see, these glands are inactive there. You see, one of the most important glands there is the thymus gland. And when I discuss this subject with some physiologists or the doctors, they made fun of me. It's a dead thing. It's inactive. If it is activated through any external means, it will be an abnormal situation. But that's the most important gland, the feelings, which are not thoughts, operate there. You see, that is involved from the thymus. You see, the medical technology ignored that for a very long time. Any abnormal condition of that is considered to be an abnormality, and they tried, you see, to treat it as an abnormal condition. But when you reach the adolescent age, it becomes inactive. You see, then your feelings are controlled by, you see, other ideas. You see,
more by culture than by biology.
Than by natural biology. Feeling is, you see, if you trip there, and you don't actually trip along with the man who trips over, but the whole of your being is involved in the tripping over. You see, that is the feeling that I'm talking about. But all the other feelings are emotions, you see, thought. Mm-hmm. The distinction between feeling and thought is not really something to...
It's artificial.
It is very artificially created. It is cultural, heart is more important than the head and all that absolute poppycock. Mm-hmm. But when once you see this kind of a disturbance takes place in the hormonal balance of the human body through this catastrophe, through this calamity, through whatever you want to call it, and then this is not only this is activated, but also all the other glands are activated, and the pineal and pituitary glands are also activated. You see, people ask me, why don't you submit yourself to medical technology, and why you are making these assertions? I am not selling these things, but what I have against the medical technology is that you want to understand the functioning of these things. When once you have some idea how they are functioning, how the activation of these things will help mankind, you are not going to use it for the benefit of mankind.
And that's the reason why you're not interested in...
Not interested in that. If you don't say, accept what I'm saying, it's fine with me. If you reject, somebody there, top physician said, this fellow is talking some rubbish. Now volumes have been written on the subject of thymus in America. So I'm not claiming any special knowledge of these things, because the feeling, you see, is quite different from the feeling induced by thoughts. So the sex has to be put in its proper place as one of the natural functionings of the body, and it is mainly, solely and wholly for the purpose of producing, reproducing, recreating something like this. It has no other place in the functioning of the body.
If one isn't interested in procreating, there's no function to sexuality?
No, there's no way you can go back now, you see, because the thought always interferes with that, and so it has become a pleasure movement. I'm not saying anything against it. You see, I go to the extent of telling people, you see, if it is possible for you to have sex with your mother, you see, without any problem, psychological or spiritual problem, that will put an end to the sex. You see, the whole thing is built on your ideas. You see, I'm not advocating incest as a way of life. For this, there is no such thing as incest at all. It is the guilt problem, it is the psychological problem, it is the religious problem. If it is possible for a human being to have sex without a second thought, whether it is your sister, daughter, mother, without any regret, without anything, the sex is finished. It falls into its proper. I'm not suggesting that as a therapy. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that. The other thing is.
But you mean without the build-up?
Without the build-up.
Throw that away.
What I'm trying to say is it's just not possible to have sex with your wife or with your mother or with anybody.
So sex goes out the door?
Sex goes out of the door. And then what you are left with is the natural functioning of the sex glands. If it is not used, all this talk of these spiritual teachers talking about it grows into your, Odvaretas. Don't believe all that nonsense, Whether you are a saint or a god man or a sinner, you see, if it is not used, it goes out through your urine, or you see, you may not have dreams, you see, wet dreams, but still it goes.
But the body is still the body and it still goes on functioning.
Yeah. There seems to be an abnormal functioning here. What do you call estrogen is in the case of, what is it? I'm not very familiar with.
Well, these are the female hormones.
The female hormones. But as they say, that is for the first few days or weeks, the sex is not differentiated in the. So somewhere along the line, it is decided by
one becomes male.
One becomes male. So it goes back into that stage where it is neither male nor female. You see. It is not an androgynous thing that they talk about. That's too silly.
It's more psychological.
It's more psychological. It's more psychological. So we have to revise all our ideas about this whole business of sex. You see, we give tremendous importance to sex, and so the denial became such an obsession with the people. You see, and then they moved away from that in India. They created this tantric sex. You see, that was the highest pleasure that the human beings could have. See, the sex was the highest. That was the reason why they created, probably even in Brazil, I don't know, in some other countries, the coupling of male and female organs. You see, you have in India all that nonsense, temples. And then the bull, the temple for a bull, virility. They were admired and worshipped. You see. So then it went to the other extreme. Sex indulgence became a spiritual pursuit for them, and they talked of achieving their spiritual goals, enlightenment through sex, and called it tantric sex. Whether it is tantric sex or ordinary sex, or you go and have sex with a prostitute there,
it's all the same thing.
It's all the same. You see.
But I can understand why people would be interested in sex as a means to attain so-called spirituality, because at the moment of intense sexual involvement and at the actual moment of orgasm, people have the feeling like they're not there anymore.
No, it's temporary.
It's just
very
a flash of a second.
Not even flash of a second. You see, because it cannot be absent. You see, even there, the division cannot be absent because of this extreme. You see, even in great pain, you see, you are not there. You see, what happens if the body goes through unbearable pain and you become unconscious? It is there that if the body has any chance of taking care of that pain, and then you see, otherwise you go. What's the problem there? See,
but would we agree that at the moment of orgasm, which is just a flash of a second.
The fact
that the person isn't there, that there's no
person,
ego, there's no...
The person was very much there.
Before.
Before, you see, even at that, the peak sex experience moment, because that has already been captured by your memory. You see, otherwise you have no way of experiencing that peak moment. You see, if that peak moment remained as a peak moment, that would be the end of sex. That would be the end of everything.
Oh, you remember it as a peak moment, but you can't remember the actual feeling.
That is not important. The fact that you remember that as a peak moment and you want to repeat that over and over again implies that it has already become part of this experiencing structure.
And then it's the ego operating.
Yes, then you see you want that always and then extending. Longer and longer and longer. This is one of the most idiotic things to do. I read some time, long time ago, that it tortured a woman, you see, to have continuous orgasm for half an hour or 1 hour. But why go through that to torture? You see, what for? What do you prove that way? You see, that is also, you see, the fad of all these people, to make that last longer. It is just a fraction, you see, of a second, whether it is in the female or the male. It really, I don't know, you are a therapist, probably you know a lot more than I do, but I think that there is really no basis for that kind of a thing to extend the orgasm longer and longer and longer. And that becomes an obsession with these women. If they don't have, so their sex acts become very futile.
And it becomes like an addiction as well.
It's like any other addiction, See, these I observed myself, I did not learn these things from anybody, but in my own life, you see. And I told my wife, this is something, it doesn't matter, you see, I always talk of these things. Every time my wife talked of love and this, that and other nonsense, what is it that is the basis of our relationship? Sex, you see. I denied sex for myself, 25 years of pursuing all these things, and then suddenly realized, look, it is ridiculous, celibacy has nothing to do with it. I have these wet dreams, the sex is burning inside of me, and why the hell am I denying myself? Why the hell am I torturing myself? I asked my teacher, you see, are you sure that you don't have wet dreams? And any time he blushed and then he didn't have the courage to give me the...
Could he still be your teacher after that?
Oh, I rejected. You see, that as a prerequisite or a necessary thing for... That did not mean that I moved to the other extreme and practiced promiscuity as my way of life. I was surrounded by the most beautiful girls who walked from Holland, from America, everywhere. They were all stuck there. I didn't even have to ask for them. But then you see, I said, this is not the way to understand the problem of sex. And so this was the only relationship I had. She understood, but yet you see the idea of love, this, that and the other, and build up and all that kind of a thing. And she always asked me, see, you are surrounded by most beautiful women here. You are a very handsome man by our definition. And why you don't have sex? Do you have a guilt problem or loyalty? Or why? She asked me always. You see, you are... ready to talk in this train. Actually, if there is an act of infidelity, that the word on my part, the whole thing will change, I told her, I warned her. Don't talk of all this nonsense. There's a conversation piece, it is fine. It is not because of the moral problem or ethical problem or any such thing, but I wanted to find out, you see, I am actually using her for my pleasure. You see.
And you could be frank about that?
We always discuss this.
There's no love involved here?
No, she was the finest woman I had. We lasted 21 years. Exceptional.
Most people would be offended if you say, I'm just interested in sex.
And she also realized that's all. But the only problem we had was children. She wanted more children because of her genes, both on my father's side and mother's side, a lot of children. And she was the 21st pregnancy of her mother. You see,
21st.
Yes, my wife. And so you see, that was a genetic problem, wanting more children, you see, and all that kind of a thing. That was the real problem between us. You see, we even went to see Mary Stopes, you see, in London. You may have heard of her.
To sort it out.
To find out. And also she was against, birth control things and all that kind of thing. She tried all kinds of things. And she was telling me that by nursing the child for a longer time, the pregnancy would be delayed. All kinds of strange ideas. But she was not ready to go to a doctor to finish with the abortion for some reason or the other. But somewhere along the line, she had to have an abortion because we didn't want to have children. But apart from that, and I did have one, what is that stand, midnight stand?
One night stand.
One night stand. Not, I was telling yesterday, it was not a cheap call girl or a prostitute or any such thing, one of the richest women. And that finished me. No more sex after that, you will be surprised.
That was still during the relationship with your wife?
Yes.
And that finished
it just so happened to me, see, that I happened to be in this place, and I don't want to go into all the sordid details, but anyway, that's not important. That was 33 years ago, I think. 33 years ago. Finished.
And that was it?
That was the end of sex for me, you see. So I am using that woman, you see, for my own pleasure. So it was not an ethical problem, or it hit me so hard that I used that woman. She may be a willing victim, willing partner in this whole game, but I cannot do that anymore, see. And that was the end of it. And it created a problem for her also, in the sense, not that she revolted or any such thing. I denied sex to her also.
She felt rejected.
She was rejected, you see, and yet she felt guilty for pushing me to, she did not push me to that situation, but you see, finished. But that did not finish the sex at all, in the sense that there is a natural rhythm, you see, even in men. So like I was able to study, there is a peak there, and for months and months and months you don't even know, you see, that...
and it has to do with hormones as well?
Yes, hormone, like the woman, you see, there is a period, you see, like that. And it's impossible for, you see, woman and man to have this same thing at the same time. We are programmed differently. Yes, if that could be synthesized, that would be a marvelous thing. Yeah, but there is no way you can do that at all. So but it did, until this, whatever happened to me, it continued, but with the powerful drive, you see, was still there. And I knew that the semen would go through the urine or some such thing. But it didn't bother me, because I was determined to find out and solve this problem, you see, for myself. I did not go to a therapist. I never believed in any therapist or any such thing, you see. So it resolved off and by itself that it's not really a burning problem. It should not be, you see, blown up into out of proportions. It has a place, a very simple functioning of the body. That's all. Its interest is only to create. And so like that I discovered these things by myself. I give you another. We were about to make love, and my 2-year-old girl cried. And we had to break up, and you can't imagine what violent feelings I had at that time. So I just wanted to strangle that child. Strangle that child. I did not actually, I would have done that. That was the frame of mind. And suddenly I said to myself, that's the blood of your own blood, to use an idiotic phrase, bone of your own child. And how can you have such thoughts, you see? So something wrong here. You see, you are not a spiritual man, you are not what you think that you are and what people think you are. I was lecturing on the theosophical platforms everywhere. You are, you see, this is you.
This is what you are. Yeah?
This is
with
what
all this violence.
All this violence. So that is why the sex is violence, in the sense that that is the necessary violence for this body. It's pain.
As far as procreation is concerned.
All creative things are painful. The birth of a child is a very natural thing, but to call it a traumatic experience and build up a tremendous structure of theories is too silly as far as I'm concerned. but it cannot be a traumatic experience there also. That is why you say after all this violence, you go to sleep, tired, you see. So that is the nature's, all creation in nature is I wouldn't call it pain or violence. The volcanic eruption, the earthquakes, and then the storms, the rivers overflowing, all this is part of nature. You cannot tell that there is chaos only, that there is no order, chaos and order happening almost at the same time. The birth and death is a simultaneous process. I'm talking too much now. Come on, go ahead, and in the light of what I have said, whatever questions you want to ask. I am not against promiscuity, I am not against celibacy, but I want to emphasize one basic thing, that if you are interested in pursuing your spiritual matters, whether you practice celibacy or indulge in sex and call it tantric sex, it doesn't really make any difference. It's comforting for us to believe that this is a tantric sex and you are not having sex with a call girl, with a prostitute, or with any woman.
Sounds better if you call it tantric.
Tantric sex, you see. And the feeling is more, there is more closeness, all is absolute gibberish. It's where they are killing themselves and killing others. I have nothing against that. You see, you run a brothel, so there is a demand for that. Call it a fucking club, I'm sorry to use that word, and or a tantric center, it really doesn't matter. That's in demand, you see, for the people. Now, there are so many people who are doing this kind of a thing, you see, in the name of enlightenment. That is detestable to me. They are not honest enough to admit that they are using that, they are running brothels and they are all pimps. Sorry. The gurus are pimps.
Yeah, Mr. Rajneesh became famous for that.
Yeah, that's why somebody asked me, what do you have to say after his death? I say, the world has not seen such a pimp, or will ever see such a pimp in the future.
But he was very good at it. I mean, very professional.
Yeah, professional. He combined the Western therapies, the tantric system, you see, everything that you could find in the books. He made a big business out of it, because you see, he took money from the boys, he took money from the girls and kept it for himself.
And he took the girls as well?
Yes, you see. And so he's dead, so we don't say anything. Nil nisi bonum.
But if we can go back to...
what I want to say is that unfortunately the society, culture, or whatever you want to call it, has separated that activity and put it on a different level, other than, you see, treating it as the functioning of the living organism. And that's the basic thing, because the survival and reproduction is the basic thing that is there in the living organisms. That's all.
And the rest is artificial build-up.
You can change theories, you can change ideas, you can write books, and it really doesn't matter to me as far as I'm concerned. So I don't tell anybody what they should do or what they should not do. My interest is to point out this is the situation, take it or leave.
But without the build-up, without the culture, without thought, there would still be sexual functioning of the body, but there wouldn't be anyone to make a problem out of that.
No problem.
The body would react, and it
anything
would go
we touch, we turn that into a problem. And it is more so because it is the most powerful drive there.
It is.
For its own reasons. And if you translate that and push it into an area where it really doesn't belong, the pleasure movement, we create problems. And once you create a problem, the demand to deal with these problems within that framework are bound to be there. So that is where you come in, sex therapist. See? So I have nothing against a sex therapist, because that problem has to be solved by them. Otherwise they become neurotic, they don't know what to do with themselves. And that's all there is to it. But not only that, you see, everything, you see, the God, truth, reality, liberation, moksha is the ultimate pleasure. We are not ready to accept that.
But sex is very concrete and
very
moksha
concrete.
is more of a concept.
Concrete, you see, this is tangible. So that is why it has become a very, very powerful factor in our lives, and also the demand for the culture to put it is in its to put these limitations on it. First in the name of religion, now again in the name of family, in the
name of law.
Law, you see, what this is nothing but a warty outgrowth of the religious thinking of man. What's the difference?
And all these laws don't help anyway, because the drive just goes on.
Goes on. You see, well, what is so? You talk of sacredness of life, and you condemn abortion there. You see, the same old idiotic Christian ideas persisting there, and turn every woman, you see, into a criminal. And you go and kill hundreds and thousands of people there in the name of your flag, in the name of your patriotism. That's the way the things are. So, not that it is of your interest to change, but the change is something which this structure is not interested in. Talks of change, but the things are changing constantly. Now, I have given the talk. I don't know if it makes any sense to you.
It does, yeah. I heard you say once that this artificial build-up of sexual excitement is actually damaging for the body, whereas a lot of people think it's like healthy because tension is getting out and you're more relaxed.
You create first attention.
Yeah.
All this
artificial,
all this romantic nonsense is a build-up there, building up of tension. So when once the tension is built, you see, it has to dissolve itself. So that is why the rest becomes, you go to sleep.
Yeah.
You see, fall asleep, you are tired, exhausted. So that is all that is there. It creates a tension, build up a tension, and then you see the after effects of that, you see, That's fine, you see, play the game, and it is wearing you out in the long run, you see.
Could you comment on the different behaviors as far as sex is concerned between men and women?
I don't
That's
see.
a rather big issue in the West nowadays.
You mean this feminist movements?
But not only that.
That's a joke.
In my work, I'm also
concerned. It is really, yes, sorry.
I'm also concerned with sexual violence and men having sex with women, children against their will, and all the damage they do to the children. And you hardly see that sort of physical sexual violence in women. So there's this discussion, what is this? That a lot of men are being, more than women, being able to objectify and use children and women in that way.
That is a sociological problem, I think, you see. I don't know. I can't say much on that, but it is really unfortunate that man got away with everything for centuries. And this society ignored women, half the population on this planet, you see, were neglected, eliminated, and treated as doormats. Even the Bible's story tells you that woman is made out of the rib of a man. What preposterous nonsense it is. You see, their intelligence is lost for this culture. It is the same everywhere, not only here.
So where does this arise from? That from time immemorial, this situation has
the
been
other party
like
also, you see, the responsible for that, you see, you're praising woman as a darling, you see, and she accepted that minor role. Woman is also to be blamed for that kind of a thing. I'm not over enthusiastic about all these the feminist movements today. See, this is a revolt that really has no basis for that. It's a reaction.
You mean both parties are responsible?
Responsible.
For the situation?
Responsible for one. I say this very often. One of the leaders of the feminist movement visited me and asked me some questions. You see, what do you have to say on this? I say, I'm on your side. But you have to realize one very fundamental thing. As long as you depend upon the man for your sexual needs, so long you are not a free person.
That's very true.
You are not a free person. If you use a vibrator for your sexual satisfaction, that's a different. You are very crude. I'm not crude. This is a fact, you see. So, as long as you depend upon that, see, then the exploitation begins.
It still goes on and on.
Goes on and on and on. So I'm not against these feminist movements. They have to have every right. Even today, in the same job, a woman is paid less in the United States than a man. Why? So we got away with this kind of a thing.
And that is culture, of course.
That is culture.
But it must have started somewhere.
But where is the guarantee that a woman is... there was a time when I believed that if women were to rule this world, it would be a different story.
Wouldn't it?
Has it been? You had a Prime Minister in India, you had a Prime Minister in Ceylon, you have a Prime Minister in England, and one of these days probably, I don't see that kind of a thing will happen in America. A woman will be the President of the United States. They are as ruthless as any other person. More ruthless. More ruthless. And so this dream of mine, this pious thought of mine was shattered when I saw that woman there in Jerusalem. What was her name?
Golda Meir.
Golda Meir or Indira Gandhi in India, and I don't even remember now. Madame Thatcher. Oh boy. That's it. No, I'm not, but still there's nothing to choose between.
No.
So it is not a question of a man running that show or a woman running the show, but it is the system that corrupts them. That's all.
But there wouldn't be any inherent differences between men and women? I mean, this tendency of men to dominate anywhere and at any time.
That is, you see, the power game is part of the culture. See, it is power.
There's no biology involved?
Now they are talking of hormones. I really don't know. They say that it is the hormones that are responsible for the violence. If that is so,
well, we need
what do we
hormones
do? Assuming for a moment that it is not, you see, a culturally instigated thing or the advantage that we have had for centuries, but if it is a hormonal problem, you have to deal with that in a different way, not put that person on a couch and analyze, and your mother was responsible, your great-grandmother was responsible for your problems. That to me is too absurd and too silly. So we have to find out some ways. You see, the basic question which we have to ask for ourselves is, what kind of a human being you want? You want to be, or the culture wants to create? That's the basic thing. So unfortunately, we have placed before ourselves the model of a perfect being. Perfect being is the God-man or a spiritual man or an avatar or something like that. But forcing everybody to fit into that mold is the cause of our tragedy. It is just not possible for us to be, all of us to be like that.
But it's so tempting, isn't it? I mean, because there seem to be these
when I look at that, you see the crown there, the scepter and crown. The church, the pontiffs had that, and they all worshipped, and the kings revolted against that, and then the royal family we admire and worship today, and where they have eliminated the royalty and created the presidents, and you should not insult the head of a state. Until yesterday he was your neighbor and he becomes the president of your republic. Why do you have to worship him as... You see, the whole hierarchical structure is exactly the same.
But there seems to be a need in a person to seek for something which he thinks is higher.
That is what we would like to be. You see, that is why we admire, we worship. The whole hierarchical structure is built on that foundation. One day, it's all right now, the politicians you can forget, and the monarchy you can forget, the church you can forget, but a tennis player, you see, a top tennis player is the hero for the tennis players, and a movie star, see.
And in certain circles.
That is a model for us, you see. And the culture is responsible for that. It's not only the physiological differences, if there are any, hormonal differences, if there are any, I don't know, I wouldn't know. But the whole commercialism is geared to that. You walk into any stores there, you see any commercial you watch on the television, always telling them, you see, how they should dress themselves, how should they beautify themselves. So the beauty of a woman depends upon the ideas of Helen Rubinstein or Elizabeth Arden or somebody else. They are telling you, see, now half the stores is cosmetics for men. Yeah. I'm not condemning it. You see, that's our way of life. So he's what kind of clothes you should wear, what colors should match what colors. He is telling us all the time. So I'm influenced by what he's telling me. And I want what he wants me to want. So how are we going to deal with these problems? I don't know, it's not for me, it's for those people who want to deal with these problems.
And then you have the problem that people, maybe like you, who are in a different...
Normal. It's a statistical definition, normal person. But how can this be a model? So this has no value for me in the sense that whatever I am cannot be fitted into any value system for the world. If it has no value for me, it has no value for the world. So you may very well ask me the question, why the hell we are talking about, because this is not an exchange of ideas. So whatever it is, something we find ourselves here. You have some questions to throw at me, and what I am doing is to put that, you see, in the proper perspective. Look at this way. That's all I am saying. I am not interested in winning you over to my point of view, because I have no point of view, and there is no way you can win me over to your point of view. It is not that, you see, I am dogmatic or any such thing. It's impossible for you to win me over to your point of view. But during a conversation like this, somebody throws at me, oh, you are that is your point of view. All right, this is my point of view. What the hell is yours? It's also a point of view. So how do you think these 2 points of view can be reconciled, and for what purpose? You feel good because you have won him over to your point of view. You use logic, you use rationality, you are more intelligent than I am. And it's a power play.
It is.
You feel good. Like this service to mankind, that is a do-gooder's high. You take an old woman across the road and you feel good. It's a self-centered activity, and you are interested in some brownies, and you are shameless to tell others that you are doing a social deed. Now, I am not cynical, I am just pointing out that it is a do-gooder's high you are feeling, like any other high. But if you admit that, it becomes simple. You see, then if you admit that, it shows that how detestable creature you are. You are doing it for yourself, and tell others and yourself that you are doing it for the benefit of others. So you are interested only in brownies. I am not cynical, you may say that but cynicism is a reality. A cynic, his feet are very firmly fixed on the ground.
But I don't find you cynical at all. I mean, it just makes perfect sense to me.
Yes.
I just lost it.
We have covered quite a gamut, or what's the word?
I'd like to come back to this model seeking that we're doing constantly, and in every field, also the so-called spiritual field.
Politics, economics, theatre, the movie stars,
in some way
tennis players.
If it's in the spiritual sphere, it's something different. But of course, as you
why is it different?
It's the same thing.
It's exactly the same. We found ourselves in a situation where only spirituality mattered to us, and now there are movie stars instead of Jesus. So many people can have the movie stars there, the tennis players or wrestlers, depending upon what your particular fancy is.
And they like it, and they try to get as much as possible.
Yes.
But with you, it's a different story.
I visited a friend of mine. He was condemning his daughters for having the pictures of movie stars in the bathroom and toilet. And then we walked into his living room, and he had my photo there on his table. I asked him, "Boy, what's the difference between the two? What's the difference between the two?"
The same thing.
One day, many of Rajneesh disciples visited me in Bangalore. My host happened to be a disciple of Rajneesh. He was one of the top movie directors. He was very close to him, and he spent years and years and years practicing all the techniques. But after he met me, he walked out on him. And in his living room, there was a picture twice the size of that, you see, of Rajneesh. After his encounter with me, he removed that and put it in the attic or under an almirah and put my picture here. So I took all these people, look here, you see what he has done.
Yeah, exchange one for the other.
Yes, like the divorces in America. You divorce one woman, the new wife comes, and her picture in your children, and put them all the other old photos in the attic, and replace them with the new wife, new wife's parents, grandparents, and children. That's all. You replace one with another.
Did you care about that? I mean,
No, I just pointed out the absurdity of it. The absurdity. So that is all that they can do. Replace one illusion with another illusion, one belief with another belief. But if the belief comes to an end, that's the end.
but there's no escaping because,
No
as you
escape.
explained before, there's nothing you can do to
Not a thing, not a thing.
sort of change all
So
that.
if you are lucky enough, I don't know, lucky enough may not be the appropriate word, to find yourself where there is no attempt on your part to get out of the trap. The more you try to get out of the trap, the more you are trapped in that. That's very difficult to
That is the trap.
That's the trap.
Wanting to get out
Yes,
of that is
so
the
that's
trap.
all those who want to discuss this with me, the question of how to uncondition yourself, how to live with an unconditioned mind. You see, the very thing you are doing is conditioning it. You are conditioning it in a different way. You are picking up a new lingo.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of using the usual one, you begin to use the new lingo and feel good, that's all. But this is conditioning you in exactly the same way, not in exactly the same way. That's all it can do.
But even realizing
But
that...
the physical body is conditioned in such a way that it acts as intelligence. Conditioning is intelligence here. There's no need for it to think.
But there's no conditioning in the body. I mean, the body is...
The conditioning is intelligence. That's the native intelligence, not instincts I'm talking about. The intelligence that is there is necessary for the survival mechanism. That intelligence is quite different from the intellect which we have developed.
Mm-hmm.
That is, the intellect is no match. If you don't think, the body can take care of itself in a situation where the body is in danger. It relies upon itself and not your thinking and not your the intellect at all. Otherwise you are frightened.
Mm-hmm.
So fear makes it difficult for you. That is why when people ask me, how come you take walks with the cobras? I never did with a tiger or any wild animal. But I don't think I would be frightened of them also. If the fear is not there, you see, the fear emits odors, certain odors. So the cobra senses that you are a dangerous thing, and so it has to take the first step. If that is not there, they are one of the most beautiful creatures that nature has created. Lovable creatures. You can take a walk with them, and you can talk to them.
And they talk back?
They don't like the way, it's a one-way seminar. I don't know. Once a friend of mine, a movie star, visited me in that ashram, stayed with me. She asked me, is it all a hype that the cobras visit you and that you take walks with them? Or what? She asked me. He said, wait until the evening or the night, you will be surprised. And so we went for a walk at the dusk time. And not one cobra, but wife, children, grandchildren, about 15 of them appeared out of nowhere.
The whole family?
The whole family. They ran away. No, but if they try to play with it, they are in trouble. It's the fear that is responsible for the situation you find yourself in and create a problem for that because it has to take the first step.
And there's nothing we can do about this fear.
It kills you only one person, you and one person, whereas we kill hundreds and thousands of cobras for no reason. And if you destroy the cobras, you see the field mice will have a field day and they destroy our crops. You see, there is a tremendous balance in nature. Now, if I find a cobra trying to harm somebody, a child or something, I would tell him, I may not kill it, you see. I tell it, go away, or something. It will go away. But you have to kill. But why do you have to kill hundreds and thousands? For no reason. The fear that they will harm us all in the future. So we are creating an imbalance in nature. And then you have to kill the field mice. You feed the cats with vitamins and then special kind of a food. And so if the cat tries to kill a mouse, feed mouse or something, you want to save that one. See, what for do you want to save this food? Even the cat does not eat mice anymore. No. Because it is used to this food from the supermarkets. But it still, you see, it plays with that and kills that for no reason, but it leaves it there in the field. It's amazing. I noticed it several times in this study.
Corrupted cat.
Corrupted cat, by associating themselves with us, all these pets have become like human beings, you see, and then you give an identity to the cat, give a name to the dog, to the cat. And
our pets are being conditioned by the same culture.
Same culture.
And we spoil the animals.
We spoil the animals, unfortunate enough to become our pets. We have covered vast field.
We have,
From disease to divinity. This is yours, not mine.
Would you like to stop?
No, it's up to you. This is your property, not mine. I have nothing to do with what I have said because you brought this out
I could say that
from me.
Yeah.
So what you do with it is yours. You have the copyright, you have the rights over whatever has come out of me. I am not saying just for the sake of saying it. It's yours. I don't sit here and think about these things at all. At no time.
They don't concern you at all.
They don't concern me at all.
No.
You come here and throw all these things at me and not actually giving answers. But look, you see this. I'm trying to focus the whole thing. And spotlight, this is the way you try and you look, please look at this way. Then you will be able to find out, you see, the solution for yourself. You know, yourself, without anybody's help. That's all. My interest to point out to the people is you can walk, please. Throw away all those crutches. If he's really handicapped, I wouldn't advise the person. He is made to feel handicapped by those people, so that they could sell you these crutches. You throw them away and you can walk. That's all that I can say. If you fall, I know, I put it that way, but you are not going to fall.
So the handicap is us thinking that we have a handicap and we need...
We are made to believe that we are handicapped. And we have, you see, the modern gurus, stuff like you with
We feel
mechanized.
like we're handicapped, like there's this conflict all the
The
time.
whole thing is put in there.
But it's there.
Where? Where is it?
Well, somewhere I can sort of sense it and feel it and be bothered by it.
No, but you are giving life to it. You are thinking about these things. Invest them. These are all memories. That's all ideas. I don't know what memory is. Really, I don't know what memory is. To recall a specific thing at a specific time, we repeated that definition. The students of psychology is much more than that. You see. So if it is all neurons, where are they located? You see, the brain does not seem to be the center of memory. The cells have their own memory, and so where is that memory? Is it transmitted through the genes? I really don't know. Some of these questions have no answers so far, but one of these days probably they will find out. And I believe that the problems of the planet can be solved with the help of high-tech and technology. But we have a tremendous high-tech and technology at our disposal. But the benefits that we have accrued so far have not percolated to the level of all people living on this planet. It benefits only a microscopic number of people on this planet. So people ask me why you are talking of that. Even without the help of high-tech and technology, it is possible for us to feed 12 billion people. The nature has provided us with such bounty. And why 3/4 of the people are underfed, starving? Because we are responsible for that problem. And that is the problem that is facing us all today in Iran. To dominate and control the resources of the world. That's the naked truth. The rest of it is absolute rubbish. So whether you kill an Iraqi or kill an American, it really doesn't matter. The President of the United States says, I'm ready to sacrifice a few Americans. For what? So when these coffins start moving there to America, they will sing a different song. But that's not the point. I'm not on the side of that man or this man. The reality of the situation is that. So the other thing is, how do you change a human being and for what purpose? And we are lucky that medical technology will help us to see the condition, of the child. If it is handicapped, there is something that can be done to change it. So people have to be thankful to the medical technology. Right, you see. And so the nature is not concerned about one way or the other. You see, if you cannot bring the child out, if it push itself out for some reason, you can help to bring it out, you see, and add one more person to the population. So if the changes are necessary in the human beings, and you want them to function differently, and free them from all the things that you see, the ethical culture, the legal structure, is trying to free them and create, you see, a different kind of people than we have today. That's not going to help. It has not helped so far. It has not touched anything. So maybe through the help of genetic engineering, we will free the individuals from thieving tendencies, from violence, from greed, from jealousy. For what? I don't know.
But who will check the engineers doing that?
The engineers are...
they will have the power then.
The engineers are helped by the state. So they are the victims of the state, and they're doing this not as a claim for humanitarian reasons, for altruistic purposes, but for recognition, a Nobel Prize, prestigious reward.
So if they find a solution,
they will hand it over to the state,
and it will only add to the problem.
It will become a lot easier for the leaders, without question, to go to the battlefields and kill people like robots. So that's the inevitable. So what is it that we are doing? You see, as I see it, you see, this is my doomsday song. There is nothing that you can do to reverse. Individually, probably you can jump off the tiger. And so no matter what you say to that man who is frightened of jumping off and continuing the ride, tiger's ride, it's not going to help him. So actually you don't even have to jump off. You continue to ride. There is no problem there, so you are not in conflict with the society, because the world cannot be anything different. If I want to be on the top, if it is part of my power game, then I talk of changing the world, I talk of creating heaven on the earth and a paradise on the earth, or when I want to know, we were all made to believe during the Second World War. I was a grown-up individual at that time. So what nonsense they talk about. This is a war to end wars. Has it ended the wars? The wars have been going on and on and on and on. And we were made to believe that the First World War was to make the world safe for democracy. Boy, how many totalitarian systems of government appeared after the First World War? We are all made to believe that. If you believe a leader, political leader, or if you believe what the newspaper man is telling you, we will believe in anything.
But even realizing this doesn't change anything.
Changes. Why are you concerned about the world and the other man?
No, but it also applies to ourselves.
To you.
Even realizing that we're on the tiger.
It is not just a realization in that area. You see, there is an action. You see, I don't like to use the word freed from all that. You are not in conflict anymore. There is no way you can bring the conflict in. That's all that is. The conflict is there because of the neurotic situation that the culture has put in there. Two things.
And even realizing that doesn't.
How do you realize? The instrument which you have at your disposal is the same one that is responsible for the neurotic situation. This is the human situation. It's not a dilemma. That's something which there is no way you can resolve through the instruments you have. But we are not ready to accept that can only create problems. It cannot help us to solve the problem.
But even if we're ready to accept that, would that make a difference?
No.
Intellectually, I would say, this is so. This is so clear.
Yeah, but if it is so, it is not a fact there. To me, it is a fact. It is so means there is no further movement there to do anything about it. I don't know myself. That's the end of the whole thing.
But they're two different. It is so. For you, it is so with capital letters.
It cannot be. It is so for you.
And for me,
if it is so, that's the end of our dialogue. You are on your own.
I can see that.
You are on your own. You will not talk about me. If you talk about me, this is another story you are telling. Pick it up somewhere else. So what will come out of it is anybody's guess. It will not be the same. What you will say will not be the same.
I didn't catch that.
If you are lucky enough, you see, to throw the whole thing out of your system, what everybody thought, felt and experienced.
One can't throw it.
You cannot. There is nothing that you can do about it. See, you don't even complete that sentence. The situation is such that you don't even tell yourself that there is nothing that you can do about it.
So when I'm saying this to myself, even realizing this, I can nothing do about it. It's the same game.
Still, the demand to do something is bound to be there.
Which is the problem.
That is the problem. That's all. To call it hopeless. Intellectually, I understand. So that is the only way you can understand anything. That's what you are trying now. And so I can say that that is not the instrument, there is no other instrument, and there is nothing to understand. How this understanding dawned on me, I really don't know. So there is no, if I knew that, it would be as worthless as any other thing. I really don't know. So you have to be in a situation where you really don't know what to do about this whole situation. You have not exhausted the whole thing. You know, if you exhaust one, there is always another one. That's it.
And even planning to exhaust it goes
No.
into disaster.
Yes, it is.
Because you can't...
To free yourself from that, to put yourself into a state that you really do not know is part of that moment. You see. That's all. Thank you. I think that's enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You have brought out a lot.
Thank you very much.